Good morning, Brendan Begley here with McIntyre Elder Law. This is Latte with a Lawyer, and today we're going to talk about ladybird deeds, but I'm not going to talk about why they're so important. I'm not going to talk about the fact that they avoid probate, okay, because I've done that before and I've gone blue in the face doing it. What I'm going to do is talk about where the ladybird deed comes from and why it's something that can be utilized in North Carolina, because this is a question I get a lot and not a lot of people know how it works. Even attorneys, okay, know how the thing works and where the legal significance of the ladybird deed comes from, okay, and why it's even a thing that we can have in the state of North Carolina. I guarantee you right now, if you Google ladybird deed, North Carolina, you might find all sorts of different stuff, okay? That's because a lot of people writing these articles about ladybird deeds don't actually know why they're legal in this state. But I do, so let me tell you. All right, so number one, okay, now follow me because this gets complicated. Number one, think of a ladybird deed as a general power of appointment. Okay, so that's something you've probably never heard before, and that's okay. General power of appointment, let me just give you an example. Let's say that I put someone on my life insurance policy as a beneficiary, okay? Now that's not set in stone, all right? I can change that person at any time. So I have that ability to change them, and that's my power that I have, right? I have the power to appoint a beneficiary right now and then appoint a different beneficiary in the future, as many as I want, okay? Now that's not necessarily a general power appointment, but that's a really good example of how one works. It's a general, all right? It's not necessarily specific, all right? Power to appoint anyone I want to, all right, to a specific thing. All right, so a trust, you can have a general power of appointment and trust. You can have general powers of appointment with regard to a deed in North Carolina. That's under case law here in North Carolina since, I don't know, the 1800s. The other thing that allows us to have ladybird deeds, that's number one, okay? Number two is the ability to appoint someone as a beneficiary on property without them getting the property, okay? Without there being a transfer of interest, all right? So let's use the same example. And this comes from case law too, okay? Let's use the same example. Let's say I put a beneficiary on my life insurance policy. I didn't give them my life insurance policy. In fact, I haven't given them anything. I don't even have to tell them that I put them as beneficiary on there. And I can change that anytime that I want to. If they make me mad, if they, give me the wrong look, right, at the family reunion, I can change them at any point, okay? Doesn't have to have, I don't have to have their consent, okay? So that's number two, is we have the ability to do that in North Carolina from case law with a deed, okay? Not all states allow you to do that with a deed, but we can do that in North Carolina with a deed, all right? So that comes from case law too. So general power of appointment and the ability to put someone on a deed, all right, but limit what they get, meaning that they get something in the future, but only if you pass away. Right? Just like a beneficiary designation. Okay. So the third and final thing that makes the ladybird deed actually function in North Carolina is the fact that Medicaid says, okay, it's our policy to go ahead and respect the ladybird deed, all right, and allow you to have that on your primary residence that you're allowed to have under Medicaid rules, right? Medicaid allows you to have a primary residence and still qualify for long-term care Medicaid. And they say, okay, you can have the primary residence and we're not going to hold it against you if you set your primary residence up with one of these deeds that allows you to assign a beneficiary. Okay, so those three things allow the ladybird deed to be legal in North Carolina. And lastly, where does the name ladybird deed come from? As you might have guessed, it does come from Lady Bird Johnson, but she didn't create the deed, okay? What that comes from is a law professor in Florida used to give examples explaining how a deed like a ladybird deed works, okay? So this deed that I'm talking about that comes from case law from the 1800s that doesn't give any interest until someone dies, like a beneficiary designation, right? The way he used to explain that, he would give examples, hypotheticals, and he would say, imagine that Lady Bird has a house, okay? And he would always use the same people in the hypothetical. And one of them was Lady Bird, and she was the one that owned the house. So the name caught on as Lady Bird deed. A little bit of trivia there for you on this Wednesday morning. That's why the Lady Bird deed is named what it is. If you have questions about the Lady Bird deed, whether they're legal in North Carolina, whether they're legal in other states, and avoidance of probate, protection of property, or you want me to explain anything that we do because you deserve an explanation of how this stuff works, right? Then give us a call, 704-259-7040. Sit down with me for an hour for free.